What really changes after you become a Canadian citizen? Is it just a passport, or is it something much deeper? Today we're talking honestly about what it actually means to become Canadian, how your life shifts after citizenship, and whether becoming a citizen really gives you a sense of belonging or just a new status. If you are an immigrant thinking about citizenship or already on this path, this episode is for you. Hi everyone, my name is Yulia and welcome to In Canada podcast. Today I'm sitting down with someone who quietly witnesses one of the biggest turning points in a person's life. Our guest leads citizenship ceremonies and hands Canadian citizenship to thousands of people. Welcome Suzanne to In Canada podcast.
Thanks. Thank you so much for having me.
I'm sure a lot of people would love to speak with you personally. Many people already know you and many people will get to know you in the near future. I hope so. You share with people one of the most meaningful moments in their lives because citizenship is never just about documents. It's never about paper. For many, it's the result of long journeys, sometimes even decades of work, perseverance, hope. I truly believe that this moment is very emotional and personal for every single person who stands in front of you at the ceremony. I'd love to start by getting to know you and your role a bit better. Could you tell us more about your position and what your responsibilities include?
Yeah, for sure. So I'm a citizenship judge. I have been for 7.5 years. I started in June of 2018. And as citizenship judges, we have three major tasks that we perform. So the first one is we are judges. So we do review some applications for citizenship and we make decisions on them. We review evidence. We might have to have hearings with the applicants. And we make decisions about whether those applications will be approved or refused. Another thing we do is promotional work. So we go into the community. So it could be schools, it could be newcomer groups, or just like what we're doing here today, just to talk about citizenship, what it means to be a Canadian citizen, what are the rights and responsibilities attached to that, what's the process to apply for citizenship, that kind of thing. And then the third thing we do is exactly what you just talked about. It's the one that it is the part of our role that people are most familiar with. So we preside citizenship ceremonies, and that's the moment during which people become Canadian citizens. So I've been doing this for 7.5 years. I've presided over 2,300 citizenship ceremonies now, and there's multiple people at every ceremony. So I've now sworn in 180,000 Canadians.
Wow.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Every time I say the number out loud, and it grows all the time. So,
yeah, like every single day it grows.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah, we do ceremonies. I probably do average about 6 per week that we do. So yeah, the numbers add up for sure.
Wow. And what's the favorite part of your job?
For sure, it's the ceremonies, especially when they're in person, because in person I actually get to see the person, face to face. I get to shake hands with them. I get to congratulate them, and just seeing that, like you say, for a lot of people, it's a really big deal, and it's the end of a long, long journey. So just to be able to see. The excitement in their faces, the relief in their faces. It's really, really special for me. It feels I'm really, really grateful to be part of that special moment in people's lives.
Do you ever see people crying during the ceremony?
Absolutely. Almost every single time. And lots of times it's me that's crying because I really get into it as well, and I can really feel for everyone that's in those ceremonies with me. And and whether it's in person or whether it's virtually, even virtually, there's always at least one person that's kind of dabbing at their eyes, and they're meaningful ceremonies and they're special moments. So for sure, there's a lot of emotion that comes into it, even if there isn't tears shed necessarily. You see people when they sing "O Canada" at the end of the ceremony, you can see just how special of a moment it is for them.
How many times has someone told you that this is the most important day in their life?
Yeah, it happens.
It happens?
Pretty often, for sure. Yeah, people are very, very grateful you know, for the most part. Obviously, for some people, they're pretty blasé about the whole thing, but a lot of people, for a lot of them, it's a really meaningful moment, and they reflect on it, and they're very grateful, they're happy, they're excited. It's a big deal.
We will get back to the questions a little bit later. Now, I want to do a small personal section. No right or wrong answer. You can answer briefly in one word, whatever comes first to your mind. It's not about your title, it's not about your position, it's just about you. Okay? Let's do it. Where in Canada did you grow up?
Here in Manitoba, in a small town just south of Winnipeg, Otterburn, it's called. Very small town, only 100, 200 people.
What did your childhood in Canada feel like?
It was great. I had a wonderful childhood with my family, 2 parents, and I have 1 younger brother. And it was just a very classic Canadian upbringing, just, yeah, really nice in a small town. It was a small French town. Everyone there was Francophone, you know, middle class. Everybody was pretty happy. Yeah, it was good. Great childhood.
Good. What's your favorite Canadian memory from growing up?
Oh my goodness. I think just the freedom, really, just, you know, as kids, maybe especially in a small town, we knew everyone there. So just, you know, can leave the house and go wherever, and always felt taken care of because everyone in the community knew everybody else. So it was very carefree and just a lot of freedom to kind of explore and do things. And yeah, it was really nice.
Good. And what place in Canada feels most like home to you?
That's a good question.
Winnipeg or not Winnipeg?
I've never actually lived in Winnipeg. So I live in a small town outside of Winnipeg. I still do. I live in St. Adolphe at the moment. But I don't know that I would say, I kind of am feeling the tug a little bit and want to live in Winnipeg. I want to be a bit more where the action is. I find a lot of the things that I want to do and events I want to go to and places I want to be and people I want to be with are more in Winnipeg than in my small town. So we'll see. There might be a move in my future at some point, but I also love Toronto. I love Toronto a lot.
Some people say that it's like too busy for them.
Yeah, I think because for the most part, I've lived in small towns other than 8 years that I lived in Calgary. But for the most part in my life, I've lived in small towns. So maybe that's why I kind of am feeling now it's time for a bit of a change. And or I like the more urban centers. You know, maybe a little bit of a grass is greener kind of thing. Who knows?
Yeah, of course. Yeah. What do you miss when you are away from Canada?
I don't leave Canada very often. I went when I was in my 20s, did some backpacking. I spent 6 months in Australia. I spent another 3 months in Europe. But other than that, I don't leave Canada very often. And at that time, I mean, I was in my early 20s. I was just kind of wanted to go out and explore the world. So I wasn't really thinking about what I was missing back home. I was just more focused and excited about meeting new people and doing different things. But since then, really the only times I ever left Canada was you know, maybe the odd trip down to the US or to an all-inclusive or something like that. But I haven't even done that in a long time. So
okay, so
maybe I miss traveling. Maybe I miss leaving Canada. Yeah.
What's a very Canadian habit you have?
It's funny. I grew up curling my whole life, which is maybe gaining ground a little bit in other countries now, but for a long time was very much just a Canadian thing. Curling, the ice curling sport. I mean, not curling my hair or anything. But the funny thing is, I don't really know how to skate, like ice skate, which is one of those Canadian things that I feel like I should know how to do. I can kind of skate. I can't stop. I'm not very good at it, but that's a Canadian skill that I wish I had. But yeah.
Yeah, I found that I really need a winter hobby here in Canada because winters are too long and it needs something like some fun winter activity. And I tried skiing
Okay. Yeah.
last winter for the first time, and now I can say that I really love winter in Canada. Like,
good.
yeah, I'm just
Yeah.
waiting for the next weekend, to go skiing with friends.
Oh,
So
fantastic.
winters in Canada doesn't seem too long.
Right. My winters are fairly busy. I have 3 kids. They're teenagers. They play hockey. They play ringette. Actually, this is the first year that my daughter's not playing ringette anymore. But for about a decade, at least a decade, we had 3 kids in winter sports. So I spend my winters in arenas. I'm just not the one that's on the ice. But
Okay.
yeah.
How do you usually start your mornings? How did you start your morning today?
Yeah, nothing. I don't have any specific morning ritual or anything. I
cup of
try
coffee?
whenever possible. No, I'm not even a coffee drinker. I don't drink coffee. I'm lucky enough to be able to work from home at least a few days a week. And on those days, I really like not waking up to an alarm. I like just kind of waking up naturally. I mean, I hear noise in my house. The kids are getting ready for school, that kind of thing. It's really nice to just not wake up to a blaring alarm. But yeah, no real routine. It really kind of depends on what's happening with my day. If we have in-person ceremonies, then I've got to get up and at them a little bit earlier and that kind of thing. But I don't do like a workout in the morning or journaling or meditation or anything like that. I value my sleep a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I like sleep. I'm not, a huge morning person. I get a lot done in my day, but not necessarily early in the morning.
All right. Any night routine?
No, I think I'm just not a big routine person.
Okay.
Yeah.
Big city or quiet nature?
I like nature, but like we've already talked about, I feel the pull of the city for sure. I'm definitely not either. I'm not one or the other. I like a mix of both, definitely.
Okay. How do you recharge after a long day?
I like reading. I like, as I get older, I like, some of my hobbies have changed. So I like working on a puzzle every now and then. I like reading. I like to recharge sometimes on my own, but I also sometimes need people to recharge. So it kind of depends on what's happening in my life. Just as a perfect example, these last 2 weeks, we have not had in-person ceremonies. Everything's been on Zoom for the last 2 weeks. So I've been
Because
at
of the
home.
cold?
No, it's just an odd thing. Like the building where we usually do our in-person ceremonies is under renovation. It took a while before we found an alternate space. So we're going back to in-person next week. But for 2 weeks, it worked out all right because it's been freezing cold. So, but anyway, all that to say that the more I work from home, the more I recharge by being around other people. But then if I'm around people a lot, then sometimes I need to recharge by being on my own. So I don't really fit quite neatly into any little box. I'm not just an introvert or just an extrovert or not just, I need a mix of different things all the time in my life to kind of just keep going and to stay content and happy.
And last question in this section, what brings you joy right now in your life?
I'm very, very lucky that my work brings me a lot of joy. Not a lot of people can say that, I know, but my work brings me a lot of joy. So I'm very, very lucky. Like I said, I'm lucky to be part of those special moments in people's lives, and I'm lucky that it never feels like I'm just going through the motions. I love it every single time. So I'm very, very lucky to have that. Something that's bringing joy in my life recently is dancing.
Interesting. What kind of dance?
Okay, well, this is going to sound really funny. I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, but I don't have a lot of opportunities to dance anymore. Like I don't go to a lot of events where there is dancing, but I like dancing. And so what I've started doing, it's not really a New Year's resolution, but I kind of just started it at the beginning of January. That's just a coincidence. But I just put on like a dance song and I dance by myself in my bathroom. And I am basically jumping and dancing. It's like a 4-minute song, and that's it. But I swear to goodness, it just makes me feel good for hours afterwards. So it's like this new thing that I've just kind of stumbled upon, and I'm like, wow, it really changes my mood and it makes me happy. So now I'm going to try to incorporate, I'm going to keep doing that, but I'm also going to try to incorporate a bit more dance in my life.
Wow, that really works because I've been dancing for 10 years.
Okay.
So I know what you're talking about. Like every
Yeah.
time, like maybe after school I was too tired. I didn't want to go to any dance classes. But after that, I just have so much energy. I can dance more and more. And yeah.
Nice. Well, I've never taken any classes or anything. There is nothing pretty happening in my bathroom when I'm dancing. It's just like, just letting everything go and
that's
just
good.
Yeah, I don't know, but it's a new thing lately, and I'm really enjoying
It sounds like it's your ritual.
Maybe. Yeah, there you go. There you go. Maybe I do have a ritual after all.
Found
Yeah.
one night ritual for you.
Yeah, there we go.
All right. Thanks for your honesty. I think people see you on the ceremonies, you know, very serious, very strong woman. And now we get to see this human side of you, very kind, very open. So thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem.
But let's bring this interview to the practical side, because a lot of people watching us or listening us are either thinking about citizenship or already on this way. Could you walk us through the main rules and requirements for applying for Canadian citizenship today? Who is eligible and what are the key criteria people should be aware of?
Sure. Okay. So yeah, there's a number of criteria that people need to meet in order to become Canadian citizens. So first of all, you have to fill out an application. Like, it doesn't happen automatically after you've been in Canada for a certain amount of time. You have to actually apply for it because not everybody wants to become a Canadian citizen. There are very valid reasons why some people might not want to. So you have to apply. There is a fee to apply as well. So there's that. You have to pay a fee. So you're obviously going to have to answer all kinds of different questions. It talks about physical presence. So you need to have been in Canada. So let's say, let me back up a bit. Let's say somebody applies today. We go back 5 years in time. So we call that the relevant period. So within that 5-year period, a person needs to have been in Canada for 3 out of those 5 years. So 1,095 days. You need to be a PR before you apply for a permanent resident, before you apply for Canadian citizenship. So in that 5-year period, any day that you were in Canada as a PR counts as 1 day.
Yeah.
But we also will look at time spent in Canada before you became a PR as a temporary resident or a protected person. So if you were a temporary resident, in other words, you had valid status as a international student, a visitor, a temporary worker, those days in Canada would count, but those only count as half days. Same if you're a refugee. So if you are found to be a refugee or a protected person, those days in Canada within that 5-year period would also count as half days. So we add up those days, we add up your days as a PR, and then it altogether needs to add up to at least 1,095 days, which is the equivalent of 3 years. So that's what we call physical presence. So you need to apply, you need to pay a fee, you need to be a permanent resident, you need to have 1,095 days of physical presence in the 5 years before the date of your application. There's a citizenship test, so you need to write a test. That's for anyone between the ages of 18 and 55. You need to write a test. It's a 20-question multiple choice, and it's based on events in Canadian history, how laws are made in Canada, people in Canada, provinces, and all kinds of different things. You need to have at least 15 out of 20 answers correct. So that's another part of it. You need to show that you can speak and understand at least one of the two official languages. Again, that's for those between 18 and 55 years old. So either English or French. We will check to make sure that while you've been in Canada and during the relevant period, you're filing your taxes and those kinds of things. We do criminal record checks. So once everybody's kind of gone through all of that, and they're determined to meet the physical presence and everything else, then the very last thing is they will be invited to a citizenship ceremony, and then they have to swear the oath of citizenship. So that's an actual requirement. People are from IRCC are watching everyone in the crowd to make sure that they say the oath of citizenship. And then that's it. Yeah, once you meet all the requirements, once you say the oath of citizenship, then you get your citizenship. And at that moment, which of course is in a ceremony, you know, when you show up for the ceremony, you cut up your PR card because you come into a ceremony as a PR, but you leave as a Canadian citizen. So yeah, but those are all the criteria. And there's obviously some nuances in there, some differences in terms of how minors can apply for citizenship. There's some things in there about when you can claim time as a temporary resident. For example, if you're found to be a refugee or a protected person, that time counts. But the time between when you make a refugee claim and getting a decision on it, like the wait time in between, which can be months or years, that time does not count. So there's obviously, you know, we could go into greater detail about some of the criteria, but generally speaking, those are the criteria.
How do I count those days of physical presence? Should I count this, or is there any website? You know, just check, double check if I'm correct, or maybe I did a mistakes, because like it's a long period of time.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's a great question. I always tell people that if you think that you're going to want to apply for Canadian citizenship one day, it's a really good practice to keep track of your travel dates. Because you're right, some of it might be hard 5 years down the road, you know, because you apply and you're going back 5 years. It might be hard to remember all of the times that you've traveled. And if you don't travel at all or a lot, then maybe it's not so bad. Some people travel more. And of course, it's easier to remember things like, you know, let's say, for example, that I came to Canada from the Philippines. And I go home, I go back to the Philippines, you know, for an entire month every summer or something. Well, that's kind of easy to remember. Yeah. But if I, sometime in that 5-year period, just went to Grand Forks for a shopping weekend and I drove over the border and it's only an hour and a half drive or whatever it is, like that might be harder to remember, right?
So even those small trips.
Anytime you leave Canada,
okay.
Anytime you leave Canada, you're supposed to declare it, whether it's for work. It doesn't matter what the purpose of the trip is. You have to declare all of it, and then when you obviously those days that you're outside of Canada don't count. But after you've declared all your trips, the days in Canada has to amount to at least 1,095. So yeah, it's a very good practice to keep some sort of spreadsheet somewhere, or, you know, whether you prefer paper files or electronic, but to keep track of it somewhere, because sometimes people think they'll rely on their passport.
Yeah.
But the reality is that not every country stamps passports. They don't always stamp it on the way in, or they don't always stamp it on the way out. Passports can be lost, can be stolen. So a passport won't always have the complete record.
Yeah.
So it's good to keep, either to keep a spreadsheet or even to keep things like flight itineraries, you know, even if you want to keep your email inbox clean, those are the kinds of things that you might want to hang on to for a while, just because, like I said, if you do lose your passport or something, you need some way to remember when you traveled and when you didn't. And there are some ways. Canada Border Services Agency keeps records of when people enter into Canada. So you can make a request to get some of those records. I don't know how easy that is to do. Same in the US. If part of your travel is to the US, you can request something called an I-94 report, which shows when you entered into the U.S., when you left the U.S. So there are some documents that you can request and obtain that will help. But if you have all that information yourself with some documents to kind of back it up, then it's even better.
Yeah, so listeners, if you are thinking about citizenship, do it right now. Like take notes, keep all these dates not in mind, but on paper. All right. While getting ready for this interview, I put up a post on social media and asked people what they're most interested and what they want to know from you. If I marry a Canadian, do you automatically become a Canadian too?
No. The only way to automatically become a Canadian citizen is to be born here.
Born.
So there are obviously some families that come to Canada, parents with children, and if they have other children here in Canada, so children that are born here are automatically Canadian, but otherwise you have to apply for Canadian citizenship. There are some cases where children can be born abroad and still be able to get Canadian citizenship, but like get proof of citizenship, but it's a different process, but there's still a process there. And some of that stuff might have implications on the immigration side. So maybe that helps you get PR, I'm not even sure. Maybe there's different streams that you can apply under. But in terms of citizenship, like your marital status has zero bearing on that. Where within Canada has zero bearing on that. Like it's really just the physical presence and the other things that we talked about, like language requirements, citizenship test. So whether you're married or not, whether you're married to a Canadian or a non-Canadian, just has zero impact on citizenship.
All right. Next question about reasons why people get delayed or even refused for citizenship, because when people apply, they want to do everything right, but they sometimes can be worried about, some little mistakes they made. Or I know my friends, they're convinced that their application is taking longer than everyone else's. So what could be the reason why people could be refused?
I mean, some of it is just a matter of timing and, how many applications are in the inventory and how long it takes to get to them. The other reasons why it could be things like we do criminal checks on people. So sometimes it could be delays with like getting fingerprints and those kinds of things and getting reports back. But for the most part, it's going to come down to that physical presence that we talk about. So we get records from Canada Border Services agencies showing when people entered into Canada. So if you applied today, we go back 5 years, so we would get a report from CBSA. If you say in your application that you've never left Canada, but our report from CBSA says that you entered into Canada 8 times during the relevant period, well, we know there's something wrong there. It means that you left Canada to come back to Canada, but you didn't declare any of those. So when things like that happen, we have the streamlined versions where everything kind of seems to be okay, everything looks good. But as soon as there's an issue with the application like that, then it will get referred to a higher level officer. So to do a double check on it, to get a fresh set of eyes on it. And then if that officer still thinks that it doesn't meet the physical presence requirement, then it has to be referred to a judge. There's only 10 judges in all of Canada. We actually don't get that many decision files. But again, depending on backlogs and that kind of thing, it can take a while before things make their way through the system. So again, really important for people to keep track of their travel. And that doesn't mean that people are not allowed to make mistakes. Absolutely, people are allowed to make mistakes.
But not 8 times.
But not, if you're missing 8 trips, that's a little bit fishy. What happens sometimes, we sometimes get applications from like truck drivers who drive to the US every week. And they think that they don't have to, sometimes people think that they don't have to declare work trips. So you get an application from somebody, they haven't declared any trips at all. And then you get a report from CBSA that has hundreds and hundreds of entries into Canada. So You know, in that case, obviously there's going to be delays. We need to get more information about all the exits and the absences from Canada. We need to recount everything, see if it passes the 1,095 days or not. So yeah, those kinds of things can delay things. Another thing that happens sometimes, people are under the mistaken impression that if they're invited to write a citizenship test, that means they've passed everything else. And if they pass the test, then they're just waiting for an invite to a citizenship ceremony.
Yeah.
That's not the case. You could be invited to write a citizenship test before somebody has verified all of the absences and your physical presence. So you could write the test and then somebody look at the file more closely after that and realized, oh, you claimed time as a temporary worker, but you actually weren't a temporary worker. Or you claimed absences, but you didn't claim all of them. And in fact, you were outside of Canada more than you said you were. So that trips people up sometimes. And one last thing I'll say about the physical presence is what happens sometimes is people are so excited to become Canadian citizens that they apply right away when they have 1,095 days. So they don't even
the
wait
next day.
for, yes, they don't even wait for like the full 5-year period, which you don't have to. You can apply as soon as you have 1,095 days. The problem is if you apply at 1,095 days, there's no room for error. There's no wiggle room there. So if somebody forgot even one trip, or if somebody didn't even forget to declare it a trip, but if the trip that they declared was 1 day longer than what they thought it was, all of a sudden they fall under 1,095 days, and there's no room for error. There's no discretion. As soon as you're under 1,095, the application has to be refused. It doesn't matter if a year has gone by since they've applied and they've been in Canada all that time. We're really stuck with the relevant period. And if you fall under 1,095, you don't meet the criteria for citizenship. So I understand why people do it, and I think it's beautiful that people want to become Canadian citizens so badly. But I just want to tell them, like, please, 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 just wait a little while longer, because like I said, it's okay to make a mistake, but it's not okay to fall under 1,095 days. So that is definitely something that anybody listening to this, I want them to hear that message and to just, I know how excited you are, but it's so much better if you just wait. Make sure you have a bit of a buffer, an extra, 10, 20 days, whatever it is, so that even if a couple of mistakes are made, you still will have enough days to meet the criteria.
Make sure everything is correct, everything is right. Keep track, and if you're eligible to get a Canadian citizenship, you will get it.
Yeah, and it just, again, I understand the feeling that people have that they want to become Canadian as soon as possible, but by running that risk and applying it when you have 1,095 days, or even just 1,096 or 1,097, and then if somebody reviews your application and it looks like there's a couple of errors, so first of all, it's going to get delayed. It's going to have to get referred to a higher level officer. It might have to get referred to a judge. And then at the end of it, if the judge decides that, yeah, you're short a couple of days, the application will be refused, and you have to start over. Like, you have to start from scratch. You'd have to reapply. You'd have to pay again. You'd have to write the citizenship test again. You don't have to wait another 5 years. You could reapply that day. But but in the meantime, your application has been being processed for, like, let's say a year maybe, which is entirely possible. And so by wanting it to happen as soon as possible, you're actually kind of hurting yourself, because it could lead to those delays, and then you're right back to square one. So it's better to just wait a little bit longer on the front end, apply with extra days, and then your application will just run through a lot more smoothly and quickly.
Yeah, okay, very practical.
One of the things sometimes that trips people up, so that some people might say, but I really want to apply at 1,095 or whatever it is, and I'm really sure of all of my dates because they're all in my passport or this or that. But people sometimes even forget the travel time that it takes. So again, let's go back to I said, let's pretend that I came here from the Philippines and I go home. I go back to the Philippines every year for a month or something. I might have a stamp in my passport that says I entered the Philippines on January 2nd. I might declare I left Canada January 2nd. I came back to Canada on this day. But if you landed in the Philippines on January 2nd, you did not leave Canada on January 2nd. You probably left on January 1st, right? Because it takes a day or two to get there. I'm using that as an example. Maybe there are ways to travel between Canada and the Philippines within that 24. I'm just using that as an example.
On private jet.
But for the most part, there are a lot of countries in the world that you cannot leave Canada and arrive there on the same day. And what we want to know is, when did you leave Canada? We're not asking, when did you arrive in this other country? You know what I mean?
Yes.
So sometimes people go, no, I'm really sure of my dates. But they don't always factor in like travel time or that kind of thing. That's just kind of one example. But and like I said,
it's a good example.
And sometimes it is like a weekend trip to the U.S. Like, if I didn't get on a plane and it's not like a big trip, it's easier to forget, especially if you're just driving an hour and a half. It doesn't, other than going through the border process, like it doesn't necessarily feel like a big deal. It's not something that might, you might not remember it 3 or 4 years down the road when it's time to apply for citizenship and to declare your absences. So, there are things like that that kind of trip people up sometimes.
Yeah, it's good just to avoid all these confusions. Yeah, so thank you for sharing this. And let's bring this back to responsibility. I want new Canadians who are watching us right now understand that Canadian citizenship, it's not only about new opportunities, it's also about new responsibilities. And because no one forced us to come here, immigration was our choice. We chose this country, we chose this culture. It means that we have to responsibility to respect how life works here, to learn the culture. So when someone takes the oath and becomes a Canadian citizen, is there something you wish people understood about responsibilities?
That's a great question. Yeah, and I mean, we talk about responsibilities in our citizenship ceremonies. I know I do at every single ceremony, and I know all my fellow judges do the same thing. So I talk about in my ceremonies, I talk about people come to Canada because it's a safe, secure country with a lot of opportunities. And, some of the reasons for that is because we all abide by this social contract to like obey the laws here and that kind of thing. So I tell people that, one of the responsibilities is to follow the laws here. The laws here, not necessarily the laws of your home country, but the laws here. We all have a responsibility to take care of our environment and to protect, Canada's landscape and everything else. We have a responsibility to not just newcomers, but all Canadians, to take care of ourselves and to take care of our families. Obviously, there's like social nets, safety nets in place through our governments to help people that need support. But by and large, we're expected to work, to provide for our families and that kind of thing. We have an obligation and a responsibility to vote as well. I mean, again, that's something that people come here from other countries sometimes, and they've never been able to vote if they come from countries that don't have these democratic processes. So we have the right to vote, but it's also a responsibility. We have the right, but it's up to us to actually go and cast vote when we have elections. One that I always mention at ceremonies as well is about reconciliation. So in Canada, there's a complicated history here between Canada and the Indigenous peoples of these lands. And I know sometimes for newcomers, the thought might be, well, I had nothing to do with that. With Canada's past, so what's my role in reconciliation, right? But by choosing Canada, newcomers are taking responsibility for Canada's future. So we all have a role to play in terms of learning about Canadian history, in terms of working together to advance reconciliation between Indigenous and non-Indigenous peoples here in Canada. So yeah, absolutely. There are a lot of wonderful things about Canada, and certainly when people are thinking of different countries, you know, if somebody's made the decision that they want to leave their home country for whatever reason, there are, you know, they have choices. There are a lot of countries out there that are popular destination countries, but people come to Canada because of all the rights that we enjoy here in Canada. But there's the flip side to that for sure, and people need to take their responsibilities seriously as well, which I'm sure absolutely most newcomers do.
Yeah, you know, every day I realize how lucky I am to live here in Canada, because Canada takes care about immigrants so much, about Canadians, and Canadians are very nice. I really love this about culture. Some personal story. The very first Canadians I met, they were my host family. They hosted me when I came here in Canada, and they were very nice, very beautiful, friendly family. They gave me everything I needed at that time, because I came to Canada just with one suitcase, carry on, and they give me everything, not just things, but also the support. And I was thinking, wow, if all Canadians are like that, it will be easier for me to live here. Yeah, so it's good because we have so many people came here from different countries, but we somehow live here all together in harmony, and it's just perfect.
Yeah, it's amazing, isn't it? Like I think it's amazing. Canada definitely looks different than it did when I was a child, for example. I mean, I talked about, especially growing up in a very small town, you know, everyone looked the same. Everyone was the same. Everyone was white. Everyone, you know, there wasn't a lot of diversity. But now it's just, it's so beautiful. I love walking down the street or walking into any space and just seeing people with, you know, every different skin color, speaking every language, and people that practice so many different religions, and, you know, people that eat different foods and listen to different music. Like, it's so interesting. It's so vibrant. Like, it's so much better. Like, I think it's amazing. It's fantastic.
Yeah, you're hearing different languages on the street. Sometimes it's your language, like my language, Ukrainian. Sometimes it's different. I want to talk about the culture, because Canada allows immigrants to live within their own cultures, to develop it. That's really a gift. But immigration is growing. Some people worry that we're slowly losing a shared sense of Canadian culture. So here is a difficult question for you. Aren't you afraid that other cultures might become more dominant here in Canada than Canadian culture?
That's a great question. I mean, and obviously there's a lot of talk out there in the world, right? And around the world, and in Canada too. It's seeping in here in Canada as well, in terms of like how much is too much. Personally, I don't have that concern. I don't have that fear. I'm not sure that, I don't know what Canada's culture was to begin with, but to me, I feel like that is Canada's culture, is the diversity. That's what feels most Canadian to me. And definitely there are some people that that have that fear, and I just can't help but see it all as a positive. And I think we have to keep in mind too, I think some people view immigration as like something Canada is doing out of the goodness of its heart. And so Canada's welcoming all these newcomers, and these newcomers really need to kind of adopt and be grateful, be forever grateful for Canada's benevolence. But what we really need to remember is we need immigrants here in Canada as much as the immigrants want to be in Canada. You know, if you're talking about population and all those things, like we're getting through the whole boomer generation, Canada's population is declining, or birth rates are declining. And in order to have enough income to pay for all of the, safety, social nets that I referred to earlier. Like, in order for government to keep running, like, we need people here and working and contributing to our economy, and we're not having, Canadian-born people are not having enough babies to kind of sustain the economy. So it's not just something Canada is doing out of the goodness of its heart. We need immigrants in order to keep our economy going. And so people that are having a hard time adjusting to it, like, you just got to get with the program.
Yeah.
And this is what we're doing. And unless something else changes, like, even if you introduce some sort of incentives for people to have more children, I mean, it's a long-term plan, like, that.
Yeah.
If you start having more children now, those children are not contributing to the economy for another 20, 25, 30 years. So, so we need immigrants. We need immigrants, and to keep enjoying the standard of life that we've enjoyed for a long time. And so we've got to figure it out and work together. And I think it's fantastic that in Canada, we don't expect people to leave their cultures, their languages, their religions behind. We don't all need to be the same. We just need to be good humans and respect each other.
Yeah.
Be open to each other. And what a great opportunity. Like, I guess I would just, encourage people to pivot how you're thinking. Like, it's not a threat. What a great opportunity to learn all these different, to learn from different people with different perspectives who have different cultures, and to be exposed to all that, I think, is just really amazing.
Yeah, every day you learn something new from your colleagues, from people at the store, from people at the restaurant.
Yeah, exactly.
There's always something new to learn. So I would never probably learn it and living back home. And even like watching movies, it's not the same.
Yeah, no, I agree.
Yeah. And all right, let's bring this conversation to the end. And I have one last question. I want to ask this question on behalf of many immigrants who are watching us right now. For someone who is still on this journey, still applying, still hoping, still unsure, what would you want to say to them?
Well, first of all, thank you for coming to Canada. Thank you for choosing Canada. Thank you for wanting to contribute to our country and to grow here and to be here. I hope that people who come here, for the most part, will want to get their Canadian citizenship. Like I said earlier, there's some valid reasons why some people might not want to. But I do think that it's, for most people, it's the right choice. I think people really feel in that moment, like, you could be in Canada and love Canada and have great experiences here, but the moment that you get your Canadian citizenship, I think people really feel that sense of belonging, right? And I think that really helps, we're all part of the same team, and that kind of thinking, which I think we really need a lot of in society, especially now when there's a bit of, more anti-immigrant sentiment that's kind of arising. I think that sense of, like I said, belonging that comes with citizenship really, really helps. So I encourage people to apply for citizenship once they meet the requirements. I look forward to seeing them all in citizenship ceremonies and for welcoming them into our Canadian family. And I love meeting people out on the streets, or as I'm out and about in my day, people will stop me sometimes and will tell me, you were my citizenship judge. Maybe it was 5 years ago, and I always ask, well, how is it? How is it being a Canadian, I think it's, from what I can see in my experience, not becoming a Canadian citizen, because I always was one, but my experience with newcomers, and like I said, 180,000 new Canadians that I've sworn in, it's a beautiful moment. It's really, I think, for a lot of people, even more impactful than they realize it's going to be.
Yeah.
And so I absolutely encourage everyone to go down that path when the time comes.
Well, I think when you get Canadian citizenship, it's not like a new document. You said that it's a sense of belonging, and I think that the biggest change is happening internally.
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. It's not just about like the life is finally quiet and calm. You don't have to think about like extending your work permit or like all these documents.
But you're right. Some of those other things are great benefits as well, right? Like once you're a Canadian citizen, it is for life. No one can take that away from you, you know, other than some very, very rare exceptions. But you're a Canadian for life. But as a PR, for example, you know, it's something that you need to renew every 5 years. And it's the same thing. Like there's a physical presence requirement to maintain your PR status as well. So you're always kind of keeping track of when you're in Canada, when you're not. Am I in Canada? Like, so, and there's always paperwork, right? Like whether it's to renew work permits, whether it's to renew your permanent resident status or different things. So yeah, there's a sense of relief that comes with getting citizenship. There's a sense of, for sure, for some people, like getting the passport is a big deal as well, because Canada has a very strong passport. You can travel more freely to other countries around the world than a lot of other passports that some people might have from their home countries. So yeah, there's all kinds of valid and good reasons to get citizenship. But like you say, it's the internal thing that's, you know, it's hard to quantify, but that seems to be the most important thing for people.
Thank you, Susan, so much. I feel very lucky to have you on the program. I think this really, really wonderful and inspiring conversation. I'm so glad that so many people will be able to hear all this information through this program and through this interview. So thank you so much for your work, for your time.
Thank you so much for having me. It was a pleasure being here.
And that brings us to the end of today's episode. Thank you so much for staying with us until the very end. If you still have questions for Suzanne, please leave them in the comments. We are reading everything and we will make sure to answer them in future episodes. And honestly, if we see that this topic really resonates with you, we will definitely do a part 2. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel, share the episodes with your friends and family so they can have this information too. Thank you again for being with us and see you next time.